Welcome to Beau is Afraid, kiddies. The movie with Oedipal arrangements.
God help us. I'm former movie trivia schmodown singles champion Marisol McKee, aka Lady Justice.
And I'm former movie trivia schmodown singles champion Adam the Coyote Collins.
What a day. We have just seen Ari Aster's brand new film, the much talked about, hotly anticipated, highly divisive, Beau is Afraid.
We made a little bit of a trek to see this one. It wasn't playing exactly in our neighborhood, but I'm glad we put in the effort because movies like this are an event in and of themselves because, we get so hung up on the blockbusters, right? I was primed for Beau is Afraid. I'm a big fan of Ari Aster. He said ahead of this that he wanted to do something slightly comedic, embracing more genres, and by golly, I think he achieved it.
This is a long time coming. This is based on a 2011 short film that Aster did entitled just simply Beau.
Yeah.
That covers thematically the same thing about a middle-aged man trying to find his way to go meet his mother. So this is an idea that's been brewing for a long time in Aster's head, and he's had a decade to stew on it and expand this hellish nightmare into a 3-hour epic.
I would not be mad at seeing a larger cut of this, but I got plenty in this cut, and let's just get into it, shall we? So the beginning of this, Beau is simply trying to visit his mother. He lives in the city. He's trying to get out to wherever she lives and just catch his flight. Well, he lives in a flaming hellscape of a town. That's kind of where the movie starts, and we go from there.
The first act especially is Anxiety Cinema 101.
I will cop to a certain level of, irrational, fear of things just exploding in flames because I'm around more people than normal when I'm in a city.
Yeah, this was Kensington in Philadelphia. Okay.
Before or after an Eagles win?
Same difference.
Yeah, or a loss.
I can easily see the first act of this film being a lot of people's favorites. It is the most sharply, I think, tightly edited and sharply visually satirical. It's just a wacky, like you said it's a hellscape, and it is relentless.
You mentioned Anxiety Cinema, and the thing that came to mind when I was watching a lot of this opening act of Beau is Afraid, coincidentally, were Zucker comedies. Airplane, Hot Shots, Naked Gun.
Yeah.
Things going on in the background that are just bananas. Ari Aster captures that so well, and there's all this crazy stuff going on constantly. I just kept zeroing in on stuff like that was in the background that would suddenly end up in the foreground. And the difference here, though, is things aren't made of rubber. People can get killed, and it was horrifying.
All those scenes outside of his home, all they were missing was Leslie Nielsen.
Nothing to see here. Move along, move along.
The most compact way to describe Beau is Afraid is it is a love child between the Coen brothers, A Serious Man, Darren Aronofsky's mother, and Peter Weir's The Truman Show. It's like a marriage of, it just throws all these elements in there and just vomits them like a Pollock painting.
If you've watched a lot of movies, there's a lot of things you may pick up on, like we did, and that's fun and that's really interesting. But the movie still works on its own terms. It feels referential without feeling derivative of a lot of that style that we're talking about. This character is not necessarily someone who's open to growth, and that becomes abundantly clear as the movie goes on. As nonsensical and as irrational as things become from beat to beat and act to act and scene to scene, it still makes narrative and emotional sense.
I never got lost with why this was relevant, why what I was seeing on the screen was relevant to his journey or what it meant to the main character.
But I wanted a child, the greatest gift of my life.
I'm visiting my mother tomorrow.
Once we moved on from that opening act, I was honestly relieved to move on to a new setting and see how Beau functioned in a new environment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we meet characters played by Amy Ryan and Nathan Lane.
Yeah, they swoop in the second act as a couple, a family who is at first glance trying to help Beau get to his mother. And then we find out very fast that there's more to it than that.
Amy Ryan's always excellent. She had a couple scenes that really popped, but Nathan Lane in this, for me, that guy was just tight as a drum, nailed every scene he was in as the host who just doesn't quite get that his guest wants to leave.
What is this?
That's my little assistant health monitor.
Everything going on in their beautiful modern day mansion is a waking nightmare. Their daughter,
She was
Tony,
fantastic.
yeah,
She was captivating. Kylie Rogers just has an absolute breakthrough performance here as their daughter.
she storms through every scene she's in, quite literally.
I was clutching my pearls, but also leaning forward every time she was coming on screen.
Denis Menochet
Yeah, he's come a long way from that farm in Inglourious Bastards.
as this disturbed war veteran who's close to the family. He makes quite an impression.
Yeah, that's what he did after the Jew hunter left.
So from there, we move on to this theater troupe in the woods, and I was utterly captivated by this. And I actually really appreciate that this was a moment of, if not levity, at least a moment of contemplation. And I really love the way it was visualized.
The film evolves. I was pulled in and always engaged and interested, even though I could feel the shift in approach throughout it. There's still the elements of Black comedy in here, but we're firmly in dramatic horror territory once we hit that third act. And you're reaching a confrontation of like the final boss in like a therapy session from hell. It's pressing in on our protagonist who, as we've talked about, we don't even necessarily like, a protagonist who may or may not grow.
Like other filmmakers, Ari Aster's digging into similar themes between his movies, but this is from a different perspective than in Hereditary.
The beauty of what we sank into, which I think this film does much more effectively than a film we saw recently, which was Alex Garland's Men, is not getting so on the nose with the metaphor.
It led with imagery, and the narrative was barely there.
Ari Aster clearly has some themes that are very important to him that we're already seeing blossom in just 3 movies alone. That's something that can be nurtured, and that's part of his artistic voice.
I am so sorry for what your daddy passed down to you.
Man, when I heard that Patti LuPone was going to be in this, I was thrilled. Just hearing that her and Nathan Lane alone were going to be in this, I was like, that is fun casting. And man, she did not disappoint.
Joaquin's been doing a lot of roles that have some overlap. And the reason I'm bringing this up is when I watched this film, I saw him playing a character who tapped into things that I related to, things sometimes I didn't want to admit to relating to.
I really do get into movies that I find them quite juicy when you don't know whether you can trust the protagonist or not. Or maybe trust is maybe not exactly the word, but you're going to discover how complicit they are in their own suffering. That makes for a conflicted viewing experience, which is an exciting thing to feel, I think, when you're watching. It's something that we don't get to feel enough. And I do want to highlight when a film brings that out.
That taps into those dreamlike narratives that really propelled people like Spike Jonze and Michel Gondry and Charlie Kaufman. I think for the most part, it works quite well on a first viewing, but I think it's going to get better watching it again and again, like his previous film.
Ari Aster, he's still relatively a young filmmaker. The man is 36. This is his 3rd film. This is him getting his Paul Thomas Anderson on. And I'm here for it. Contrast this to an indulgent, passionate obsession of a director that I saw recently, which is Andrew Dominik's Blonde, which I just think is just a waste of time. That film is a filmmaker becoming an indulgent about a subject to nobody's benefit. And I think that Ari Aster here has become focused and obsessed with his subject matter in a way that there is still something to take away from. I do think there is merit to this film.
There's so many details in the background all throughout Beau is Afraid. Set design, so much text, simply just text all over the background of this movie that you could just spend days just reading and researching. But what I appreciate about overall is even after a first viewing, I may not have picked up on every single thing. Maybe it won't turn the biggest profit based on how expensive it was, but that's not what A24 is concerned about.
Well, they're creating A24 is creating a safe space.
Mhm.
Not saying that every film now needs to be like Beau is Afraid, because I
No.
think that defeats the purpose. But a film like this to come out and just be received and be divisive, and some people are into it, but it's not harmful. This film is not harmful.
It's not your garden variety mom issues. You know, there's a lot more to it than that.
And I do think that it is worth checking out just to react. I felt that way about Promising Young Woman that came out, which I was
Mhm.
kind of neutral on, but I still feverishly wish that everybody saw it. And I do feel that way about Beau is Afraid.
I don't mince words. I am totally high on this guy's style. I'm in on it. So far, I like Hereditary and Midsommar more than Beau is Afraid, but I got to see it a few more times.
Beau is Afraid. You should not be afraid, though, to check it out.
Yeah, live a little. Challenge yourselves.
Am I going to show this to my mom? Probably not.
Can't wait to see what Ari Aster makes next. God, this guy is cool at making movies.
I gotta say, this was a bad weekend for redheaded mothers. Beau is Afraid and Evil Dead Rise. Somebody had a vendetta out there when they were making the release schedules for these.
We got to protect our ginger moms. Thank you so much for tuning in to our latest review on Beau is Afraid. As always, we have more content on the way, including more episodes of Movie Brawls, our wrestling series. We have a lot of exciting people who have agreed to appear on the show who we will not spoil yet. But it's going to be awesome. And yeah, more movie reviews, more hullabaloo, lots of excitement on the way.
I love hullabaloo.
Please follow us at Champs on Film on Twitter and Instagram.
We also have individual accounts. You can follow myself and my illustrious co-host here. We are on Twitter, and we are both also on Letterboxd.
Yep. All right, now if you'll excuse me, for some reason after seeing this movie, I really need to call my mom.
Funny, I just need to empty my pill cabinet.
Yeah, it's probably a good precaution. Check for spiders too.